This is the Earth to World Broadcasting Network.
His website advertises well-located, spacious, one-bedroom apartments with walk-in closets, off-street parking, and free on-site laundry, most utilities included. And the price, $450 per month. Or you could get a two-bedroom for $575 per month. How about a four-bedroom? Staggering $895 per month. It's the Willamette Valley. Brian Miles formed SMI Commercial Real Estate, LLC, along with Catherine G. Miles in August of 2004. Brian specializes in multifamily investment brokerage. Prior to 4 years with Coldwell Banker, Brian spent 10 years as a property manager, specializing in apartments, and as a principal with Shelter Management, Inc. in Salem. Producer of the Miles Apartment Report, Brian spends most of his time chasing deals for buyers and sellers from Kaiser to Eugene, and is a key resource of investment activity for the multifamily industry in the Willamette Valley. His website homepage is titled Marketing and Knowing Your Market. I present to you the guy who really knows his market, Brian.
Well, good morning. Jonathan mentioned that there's 375 of you out here this morning, and that's quite a big, that's a large increase from previous times, and I think it speaks to maybe better times than we've had in the past. And I wanted to point out that I'm wearing my happy tie this morning, which this is Scrooge McDuck, and my kids or my wife got it for me, which may have another statement in its own right, but I choose to think it's just a happy tie. And I've never wore this tie to speak. Let me tell you, it's just never been that happy. As was mentioned, I'm here to talk about the southern Willamette Valley. And vacancy is always something I've talked about, but as you guys can see from the Metro report and have heard, vacancy is very low and solid and stable throughout the entire state as you run down the I-5 corridor. Rents are ratcheting up accordingly. So I'm really not going to elaborate a lot about that. Instead, I'm going to talk about something else. Last month, I had knee surgery to have some debris removed and some repairs done. And as I've never brought pictures up here, I chose not to bring pictures of that for you guys either. But when I had my post-op, I'm sitting there with my doc, and he's given me this very stringent list of things I can no longer do. And it's basically telling me that age has snuck up on me and telling me all these things that I can do if I want to stay at the current level of activity I'm at. And if I choose not to do them, well, then I'm going to suffer the consequences with an old, decrepit body. And you know, just so you guys know, it's exercise and eating healthy. So after I left his office, I'm going back to work, and I'm starting to think about what I'm going to talk to you guys about. And this is terrible, but I got this correlation between my broke-down body and our apartment situation running down the I-5 corridor. And so where I'm going with this is, or as I see it anyway, where I'm going with this is the older units, particularly down the valley, are really going to struggle to attract residents as we see new units coming out of the ground. There are finally some new, sexy, if you will, apartment complexes coming out of the ground on the horizon through all the southern valley. These units are going to draw the residents, reminding them of how out of date the units they live in right now really are. They're going to have whatever the newest color scheme is. They're going to have new carpet. They're going to have new shiny appliances. They're going to have patios and decks. They're going to have high-speed this and high-speed that. What they're not going to have, they're not going to have cracked and alligatored parking lots. As we pull in, the dumpster's not going to be right over there with the lid open and debris floating around. I mean, you guys know exactly what I'm saying, okay? The landscaping is going to be impeccable, okay? There'll be curb appeal galore. They're going to look like I used to feel. You know, they're going to be just what they're supposed to be. They're going to be the first really new construction units that we've had in a while going down the valley. So, since fully half of the inventory as you head down south is 1980s or older, I think it's time that we're going to have to get our health in order and take advantage of the timing of all this. We're going to be dragged into the doctor's office pretty soon, and we're going to have to do or see what it's going to take for us to be competitive or at least maintain status quo. You know, I used to work for this NFL football player, and this guy was very, very intense, as you can imagine. He wasn't much bigger than me, but he literally scared the bejesus out of me. And so when he spoke, I listened. And one time he stopped me and he said, you know, I'm really happy you know the job now. Now I want you to take your blinders off and look and see what we're really trying to do. And you know, I've never forgotten that, and I think more than ever, maybe it's applicable. To start, let's take a good look at our property's grounds. We recently did a complete overhaul on a 1960s product in Kaiser, and we started on the outside. We took out 17 very nasty trees. We resealed the parking lot. We striped the parking lot. And the stunning thing was that little, fairly inexpensive additional stuff we did made a mammoth difference to the property. You know, I swear the property actually stood up straighter and the paint got a gleam to it. And we didn't do any paint. You know, it just really improved it. You know, next, let's give a little extra thought to the turnovers on these older properties. Let's replace the light fixtures in and out. Change the handles on your cabinetry and your doors if you need to. Fresh paint, and for crying out loud, do some prep work. New units do not have paint on the woodwork, they don't have paint on the vinyl, and they don't have paint along the edge of the carpet along the wall there, okay? Get an air freshener, and if you don't get it, tell your people to get it. If you replace the flooring, seal the floor. Sealant is cheap. Now, 1980s, that's 30 some odd years. Can you imagine what's been dumped on that subfloor for the last 30 plus years? Anybody want to guess? Jumping over to the other side of that, has anybody looked at the inventory for foreclosures in apartments over the last year? Now, granted, it's not very big, and frankly, most of it is duplexes to, you know, small multiplexes. But there is something very common. They're not new and pretty. They are not old and unkept. They are old and run down. They didn't have that set of eyes to look at them when they really needed it to try and salvage it. Now, these are also the extremes, and we're probably going to assume there might have been some debt issues with those to add to the woes. But my point is, these are not young properties. These properties are not ready to go to the beach and go toe-to-toe with the big boys, okay? They need a diet. They need an exercise program, and I've seen a few that need a serious injection of steroids, serious injection. But we have a window of time right now available to us to do some extras and do these repairs and get this stuff set up. Ask for another set of eyes to go with you to your properties. Many of you know my wife. She's sitting right over there. I won't ask her to stand up, but she went with me. She actually insisted to go with me to all my doctor's appointments. And it's funny because she saw and heard things very differently than I did. As a matter of fact, I think she heard everything he said. And now I know my wife and my doctor have something in common. They both are certain I don't listen to anything anybody says. But same thing with our units. You know, we tend to see what we want to see and minimize all the rest. Minimize all the rest. 6 months ago, 3 of the 6 panelists up here talked, unbeknownst to anybody until they got here, all talked about utilities and utility billbacks. Well, I think that shows, you know we have an obligation to keep our expenses at market or better as a group, as a professional group. Well, that same thing, we got to look ahead and see what's on the horizon that's coming at us, good or bad for our properties. The last go-round for a construction startup, I think most everybody in here, for the most part, was in the industry when that happened. And I think you all remember what happened. It did push rents, which was great, but it also caused vacancy in older units. Your budgets, anybody remember what happened to your advertising budget? Man, it was gone in the second quarter. Okay? Your turnover cost spiked because everybody was moving into the new shiny units. So older units absolutely get hit hardest, and they get hit first. Now, I don't like to go to the doctor. Man, let me tell you, I really hate to pay the doctor. And up until recently, I didn't even listen to the doctor. But as has been explained to me, there's a lot of things I like to do, so I'm actually paying attention now. And that's where I feel like we are with our older units right now. We've got to protect them against aging. When times were tougher, I understand ignoring the issues, making something stretch out a little bit longer. I mean, I did it, I get it. But now we better clean up our act and prepare for the future as this buildup has been talked about as is going to happen. The older inventory going down the valley is not getting younger. And as my wife so nicely pointed out to me the other day, neither am I. You guys have a great day.
This is the Earth to World Broadcasting Network.